So actually, you talk to guys like you guys are probably a pretty young crowd. There, the really famous farrier Bob Marshall for a long time, but he would take underrun feet and hunter fifth them, like literally take everything away from Dylan. They would just come right back because he quit, leaving all that to slam into the ground every time, right? It goes with like feet. Like a lot of people, and I did for years, think that feet are like hinged at the toe and they spread when a horse steps down. It's actually not true. Heels actually contract and go in when a horse steps down. The widest part of the foot comes out and the toe dishes. So the whole theory of expansion and length for support stuff doesn't really fly because feet go the opposite way of that. And it's so nice with Facebook and Messenger and camera phones now with FaceTime. I can literally just be like, hey, watch this horse walk. What do I do? Right? It's just really nice. So to be able to take advantage of that is huge. No different than Jason talking about, you know, the live stream. So there's really no telling how many people are at this clinic.
All right, Summit's right around the corner. I'm excited. I can't wait. I love the trade show with the Summit. Hey, you too. I tried to get Woodrow to pose for the video and do the thing, but he's more interested in torturing Archie, so we'll just let that happen. Anyway, so I just heard from Dusty, though, that he is going to be at the Summit, and he is going to be at the Kahn Forge booth. So if you want to stop by and visit with Dusty, it's going to be a great time to do it. So I thought, what the heck, let's make a little video. So we put on a clinic with Bobby over at Sierra Farrier Supply and Horsetown Farrier Supply. And here's Dusty's introduction where he talks about his basic philosophies on shoeing horses and his experience and his outlook on education and how he views the trade in general. So peace, I hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you at the Summit.
To go somewhere, you want to get the most out of it you can, right? So what really makes a great clinic is involvement and questions, because I'm going to go through the stuff that I go through, but I really don't know anybody here hardly. So without questions and a little direction, I can't help you for what you feel like you need. Does that make sense? So if I'm saying something and you don't understand it, just ask. I'll explain it differently. You guys, I know we got a bunch of beginning farriers as well as looks like people that have been shoeing for a really long time, so it makes a good group of people to learn from all the way around. Things I mainly talk about now at clinics is this is my 30th year shoeing. Just a little background, I'm a third generation farrier. I have a son that's a farrier in Colorado as well. Been real lucky as a competitor. I think I've been on 5 national teams, competed all over, judged some of the biggest contests in the world. I really love horseshoeing. I really do. I've never done anything else my whole life. Worked for my dad, so I left home at 17, and this is what I've done since. And the great thing about horseshoeing, if you take the right attitude towards it, it's something you'll never win. So people that are sitting here that have shod horses a long time, you guys have worked for people every day that get up and do something they don't like to do to eat. And that's something I've never had to do, right? I feel pretty blessed with that. And I think one of the reasons is why is I never settled. I never thought because I was making money I was good, right? That's the big thing. That's the big hole in horseshoeing, is it's easy money. So with that comes a little bit of, man, I really got this figured out because I'm busy. The problem is that horses can't talk and owners don't know. So unless you go through certification, or you compete, or you put yourself in situations like this, how do you know? Really, how do you know? And I never could really lay down at night without knowing. And so I'm really glad that I have that personality. So, but it's kept horseshoeing fun every day. I've been real lucky to never have to get up and be like, man, I got 6 foals today. You know, I'm thinking to myself, man, I got 6 opportunities to help an animal that can't speak for themselves, right? Or learn something today. Or with social media now, it's amazing. You know, I got my list of people that if I get stumped, you know, Brian Barrett from Kansas, you know, Travis Burns, Gerard Laverty from Canada, those are people that I all call when I'm confused about something or see something that I've never seen. And it's so nice with Facebook and Messenger and camera phones now with FaceTime. I can literally just be like, hey, watch this horse walk. What do I do? Right? It's just really nice. So to be able to take advantage of that is huge. No different than Jason talking about, the live stream. So there's really no telling how many people are at this clinic. Not just the ones that are sitting here today. So another thing too about the trade is just like working with other people really keeps you motivated. I'm real lucky where I live. There's 8 AFA journeymen that are at my shop almost every day. Nobody works for me. They're just there. They have stations there. They all have their own businesses, but they come from all walks of life. They go from a guy in his 50s all the way down to, Garrett Stark's 18 or 19, and so they've all come from different places. And so it's a good group of being able to draw from people all the way around you. So really getting involved in your associations, things like that is huge, because you're going to meet people that are on the same path you are. So I have people that come to this place all the time and stay for a week just to come. And anyone here is invited anytime. I mean, I love it, because what you're going to do is you're going to tell my group your story and the things you did right and the things you did wrong. So hopefully their path is a little shorter than your path was if they listen, right? So just a few things like that about going to a clinic. Taking notes, it'll be live stream. You can look at it later when it's all edited up. And again, the most important thing is just raise your hand and ask questions. So, you guys have any questions for me before we get going? No? All right. Is there anything in particular that you guys want to see today? Is this a forging crowd? Is this a everyday shoeing crowd? Is this a I don't want to get killed shoeing horses crowd? Like, where are we at? Nobody wants to get killed. Good. That's a good one right there. It's funny how when you get to go around and judge, especially doing the AFA certifications, I get to watch a lot of people shoe under stress, right? And it is pretty interesting. I was real blessed in one sense growing up with my dad as a farrier, who was a very economical farrier. Nice way to put it. I remember as a kid, I remember when he raised his prices to $22, it was a pretty big deal. And that after we raised our prices to $22, we didn't have to tie all the horses down to really shoe them like we did before. So it was pretty eye-opening for me. And so growing up, we had a homemade stall jack that was about this tall, and it was when I left home at 17, I actually met a journeyman farrier, and man, that guy showed me what a forge was, and all that stuff. But the biggest thing coming back to my dad was to get around horses. It was huge, and always to make a horse comfortable. If you guys are here are avid riders or anything else, being right-handed or left-handed promotes what your feet look like and how your horses ride all day, right? We're dominant on one side than we are the other. So you see those habits constantly. So you've got to know what your habits are going to be. So everybody in here that's right-handed, when you guys nip your right front foot, when you pick your rasp up, the first place that you rasp is the medial toe, every time. Then your lateral heel, right off the bat, just how it is. Same thing on the right hind. So when they get the horse up here, we'll talk about that more, but also about your positioning under the horse is going to make their life easy or hard. So I've been super lucky. Like I said, 30 years in, there's probably only been about, because of a horse incident, 4 or 5 days out of that I wasn't able to shoe horses. So been real blessed that way. We'll talk about holding feet today, position, things like that, to help you out, and then also habits. So if I could teach you guys today maybe how to judge yourself, then you could take a lot away from a clinic instead of just hearing me talk. Another thing I like to talk about at clinics is using anatomy. I had a friend that really wanted to go through this AWCF test, and I'm probably the dumbest horseshoer you guys have ever met as far as education. I barely got out of high school, summer school every year, blah, blah, blah. And so to go through a process like that was pretty hard for me, but it was the best thing I ever did as a farrier, was to learn about anatomy finally. I was always the guy like, oh yeah, I can make a pretty shoe, nail it on. I work on the outside of feet, not the inside, because I was kind of scared of it. But really putting my head in the books We've done a pile of whole horse dissections now and trying to understand why horses are designed the way they are. So now I use that to teach about fit. Instead of, everybody here has their version of fit. Everybody here, you know, I use this shoe because I can grind it, make it shiny and big, or I use this shoe because it's hunter fit or whatever else. But in all reality, I think a farrier needs to be educated enough to evaluate each limb and complement that limb, that conformation with their skill, not cover it. Do you guys know what I mean by that? So you should be able to look at a horse's conformation and already know why the foot's shaped the way it is and how to shoe that horse for true balance. And when I say true balance, it's interesting, everybody's version of balance. So like, Tiffany, what's your version of balance? If you're gonna trim a front foot, what's your go-to? I agree. I was real fortunate enough to live real close to Jim Keith, and he was doing a clinic there one day, and it's funny how things stick in your mind that happened to you in this trade. And Mr. Keith went around and asked everybody like I did here, and he wrote them all down on a whiteboard, and it was real nice. And he explained to all of us real simply that balance is simply where that horse has to compensate the least for his or her conformation through a shoeing cycle. Pretty good blanket statement, right? But behind that is years and years and years of education. Because think about the tasks that you're giving yourself. They're just like we are, just like everybody in here. Everybody's made different. Everybody's got a different build. They do different jobs. They walk different, right? Wear their shoes different. Horses are no different. So imagine the wealth of knowledge you have to accomplish what he said. To be able to shoe or trim a horse, right? So they have to compensate the least through a shoeing cycle. That's our job. So you have to understand everything you just said, same with that. And so what happens to horseshoers is we get in our mind what we think is good, right? And it's easy to do. It really is, because there's no one to tell you different. I don't know if you guys know it or not, but I sound just like George Strait when I'm by myself in the truck, like literally. Couldn't tell us apart. But that is definitely not the case, right? If I get around somebody else, they're like this. Please, for the love of God, stop. And so going back to that is being able to educate yourself to apply and again complement a horse's conformation with your job and not cover it. So you're going to hear all parts of the job. People that are good at anatomy, then people that compete are iron bangers. People that compete are like people that anatomy are nerds, you know. So it's our job to be both. Right? I would have never thought in 1,000 years that I would get into anatomy like I did, and function and movement and all that stuff. It has been like the funnest time of my whole life as a farrier, right? So it did help a lot growing up. Horses, I grew up, my parents still raise horses. I showed horses my whole youth career, won the world in 5 different events, like rode on my own, still have horses today. So all that knowledge there, as far as seeing the dynamic balance and gaits and all that stuff, came a lot easier for me than someone starting out. But just to put it all down to be able to understand why things are the way they are. So we'll get this horse out, whoever's doing the horse. That would be great if we could catch Fluffy. All horses are fluffy, by the way. And another thing too that I don't think gets talked about enough at clinics is having decisions that we all make, even like pulling into someone's place. You guys have already changing the way you're going to shoe that horse. You know, I pull into a place and I see the old woven wire fence curled up at the bottom all the way around and mud that deep. Well, guess what? Fluffy's getting double lots and city head 6s. So just how it is. So yes, absolutely. No, it's called traction. But it is true. You pull into a place and the place is manicured and the stalls are clean and the horse's hair looks good, and that changes your whole perspective of how your quality of job is going to change. You know, I don't know if you guys ever do any type of sports or whatever, but like I love playing pool and golf and all kinds of stuff I can never be good at, right? This just reminds me where I'm at. But I have noticed over the years, if I'm playing with someone that's good at golf, I shoot better. When I'm playing against someone that's a good pool player, I shoot better. When I'm competing at a WCB, I make a lot nicer shoes at the contest I ever did at home, right? Because you're mentally setting yourself a bar. Like you know there's a standard there, you know? So same thing with horseshoeing. I try to surround myself with people who are way better, right? Because then I only have one way to go.